Welcome in, friends. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. He's Bo Brack. I'm Johnny Venerable. Is today the day that we get Isaiah Simmons on the show? It is not. However, we are going to say nice things about him because we're going to follow the lead, Bo Brack, of his head coach. The ex-top 10 pick looks to finally be settling in at the safety position for the first time in 4 years. He's got a natural role, and it could lead to big things for this franchise in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, can they unlock Isaiah Simmons? And that's what the previous coaching staff tried to do. I think they came close. I mean, you saw some, decent numbers from the 8th overall pick, but did you see, play that kind of met what he was selected 8th overall in the 2020 draft? And what you saw at the collegiate level, I think people are still waiting for more from Isaiah Simmons. And, now he's playing a position that a lot of people believe is more well-versed for his skill set.
Yeah.
And we'll see, and we talked to Jonathan Gannon today, and we'll get into what he said, but, Isaiah Simmons, this is it, right? The fifth year option was declined. This is the 4th and final year of his rookie contract, and he's got to prove to the NFL that he can be an impact player. Now, he's made impact plays, but can he consistently be that impact player? Is he going to be a guy that's going to go from roster to roster? Is he a guy that's going to, make decent amount of money, but is he or is he going to be able to make a way for himself to get the bag this offseason or in the future? That's going to be kind of hanging on this season for Simmons under Jonathan Gannon, who's been known to be a kingmaker at the safety position.
Yeah, if it doesn't work under JG, who's it going to work under? And there were question marks, Bo, that we had for this team back in the spring. Like, is Isaiah Simmons even going to start for this team? You figured Jalen Thompson, Budda Baker have the safety position locked up. We didn't know what position he was going to play. And then they declined his 5th year option, something that we were told was going to go down, that they weren't going to pick it up. And then you see he is part of the base starting defense, even though it's not like that on the depth chart. Like, the starting defense with him last Friday included Isaiah Simmons at free safety. And I'll continue to use this example. I think it's the best role for him to cherry pick and have big time statistics. He's not built to call the defense. That's okay. Not everybody is, but is he built to make plays? And this team can be polarizing, right? Kyler Murray can be polarizing. Guys like Rondale Moore, obviously Cliff Kingsbury was polarizing. I would say Isaiah Simmons is in that category. Isaiah Simmons is a polarizing figure with this fan base because there's recent PTSD. I can't tell you how much I get this comment. While I don't agree with it, I understand where it's coming from, that Isaiah Simmons is Hassan Reddick 2.0. Like, the Cardinals fumbled or botched his development, and he's going to leave. He's going to have a great year this year, and he's going to leave and get the bag and play great football somewhere else. And while Hassan Reddick was a pass rusher at the collegiate level and should have been a pass rusher to start, like, Isaiah Simmons has kind of been an anomaly. He's never really had a permanent role. And so everybody that's kind of putting their nose up saying, I was right, he should have been playing safety all along, I hope that's the case. But something tells me, like, if he has a big year for them, a really big year, they're incentivized to keep him. I don't think that they're sitting here saying, well, he's gonna leave regardless. You have the franchise tag, you've got $80 million. Like, if he buys in and becomes a part of this nucleus in his mid-20s, this is not Steve Keim, this is Monty Austin-Ford. He'll consider bringing Isaiah Simmons back if it's warranted.
Yeah, if he carves out that role, and that's going to be the important thing. And what's he going to be doing, and how is he going to affect the game from the new safety position, kind of the free safety spot? Yeah. I'll say this: as far as the chat, it's electric today. It's unreal what's already going on there. Tyler Simmons going to the game and the MGM LFG. Absolutely, we got some news to break between now and then as far as another piece to this show that's going to be joining us at the MGM on a weekly basis. We cannot wait to tell you who's going to be joining PHNX Cardinals. We already added to the roster Greg Dortch, who's going to join us tomorrow. And now we got a new member of PHNX Cardinals. Cannot wait to tell you who it is. Also, we see in the chats there, as far as our guy Dylan Richards, I see that he won one of the Polaroids from the Cardinals media, not awesome. So much media day. Congratulations. You got more insight to that media day than I did. And I'm a member of the Cardinals media. That's fantastic. But look, I mean, I completely understand. There's a couple variables that go into Isaiah Simmons being such a polarizing player on this team, right? Obviously, where he's drafted, the skill set. You can look at the statistics, and the statistics can tell you they can tell you he's pretty good, right? but they don't tell the full story, because when you watch the game, usually like throughout his career, he's either, removed from the game, he's not playing enough snaps, or his impact's not being made. And then you see these impact making plays like in Vegas in overtime, strips his former college teammate Hunter Renfrow, and Byron Murphy scoops and scores, and the Cardinals leave there victorious after being 20-0 at halftime. It was unbelievable. And Isaiah Simmons was big. He barely played in that game. You see the strip sack he had of Kirk Cousins in Minnesota that could have been a game changer, but the offense couldn't get the job done. But Isaiah Simmons made that play. The play he made on Thursday Night Football right after Marco Wilson intercepts the pass. What was it? A one-handed interception. And then the clock hits 20 miles per hour going down the sideline. And you see all that, and you're like, how can they not harness this? And how can they not unlock this? Yeah, I think we do know. And I think at this point now, the conversation, or, it's just saying, hey, it's now or never. I think that's fair. And there's always going to be, as long as he's in the NFL, kind of the fear, if he's not wearing a Cardinals uniform, that somebody's going to tap into his talent and get the most out of Isaiah Simmons that, hopefully the Cardinals weren't able to. I hope this is the season that it clicks.
I mean, this isn't Steve Keim. Steve Keim would allow, of course, Hassan Reddick to walk, and they didn't prioritize him. Then they tried to bring him back, and he said, no, I'm not, why would I play for you? You guys disrespected me. Here's where I think Isaiah Simmons and the Cardinals could come to a meeting point. And if Isaiah Simmons has a nice year, this is not Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury and Vance Joseph, right? So anything that Isaiah is experiencing, like I would hope Isaiah doesn't hold ill will against Austin Ford and Gannon because they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, right?
Right.
I would hope that if Austin Ford and Gannon, specifically Gannon, is able to pull and elevate Isaiah Simmons to new heights, because they asked him, Isaiah Simmons told us, he was like, yeah, I told him what position I wanted to play. Mm-hmm. They're accommodating that. They're playing him at free safety. So it's like Isaiah Simmons, fair or not, like he's going to get a chance to start at the position he wants under a defensive back, defensive coordinator savant in JG, and then now Nick Rallis. If he produces, like they would be in each other's best interest to try to work something out. And Jalen Blair, you bring up a good point, but I think there's some wiggle room with this. I have a hard time seeing, according to Jalen Blair, them sink more money into the safety position with Simmons. I think they could justify it, number one, with Buddha's year to year at this point, and that's okay. And I would imagine Simmons, you'd probably get a longer deal done because he's in his mid-20s. Jalen Thompson, if he has a good year, he's going to have a good year playing slot corner. And you can justify paying a slot corner what you're paying. Jalen Thompson's contract is nice. It's not cash strap hampering your franchise. And I think they'll look at Jalen Thompson as like a Honey Badger-esque type of piece to move all over the place. Whereas maybe your traditional safeties will be Buddha and Isaiah. But go look at what they did in Philadelphia. Go look at what they're doing now with the Cardinals. Like they're not going to pay 3 or 4 linebackers to start for them. They would rather pay defensive backs, maybe not necessarily always safeties, but if the situation called for it, and defensive linemen. I would say, because they're not committing much money, if at any, to Kazir White and Owen Pampo could be starting, like you could justify that. You could shell out some money to 3 or 4 defensive backs, because again, if you're winning with that unit, you lean on your strength, and I think that's going to be the strength of the defense.
Yeah. What is it? Is it some damn bub? Is that what his name is? I can't see it from this far. We got no media love, bro. Everyone talking about the one Russ TD, which is, by the way, it was on 4th and 5, and not even acknowledge how good we looked. Absolutely. I was just watching tape, trying to watch, where Isaiah Simmons was on any given play. And that front seven was suffocating to Russell Wilson for the bulk of the time he was in there. And they brought a ton of pressure on that 4th and 5 play. And there was a breakdown as far as Judy versus the safety on the play, and he got wide open. That's unfortunate, but I love what I saw from that defensive front. I mean, guys were just getting after it and getting after Russell Wilson. And like, JG said today in the press conference, it's the complementary football that you play from the front of the defense to the back of the defense. Guys on the back of the defense, if they're covering right, guys at the front of the defense have longer time to get a quarterback on the ground, and with a ferocious front seven getting after a quarterback, it's going to get quarterbacks off their spot. They're going to make bad throws, and the ball is going to end up in the hands of a defensive back or a defender. It's interesting when you look at where Isaiah Simmons lined up in this game. like he's going to be the CJ Johnson of this defense, this CJ Gardner Johnson. I mean, as far as where he played, and if you extrapolate that out, the numbers throughout a season, it's going to match kind of the ratio of where CJ Gardner Johnson played for Philadelphia. And Gardner Johnson had 6 picks, and I think the primary focus as far as what they want from Isaiah Simmons is to get the football. They want him to take away the football for the Arizona Cardinals. It just in limited snaps against the Broncos on Friday, he played 8 snaps of free safety. He played 5 snaps in the box and then 1 in slot. I know, don't crush him for being in the slot. I mean, it was just 1. Okay.
Well, hang on. What did we talk about in the spring? Like I put my foot in my mouth, which I never do. I shit on his slot play. And then you looked it up at PFF, and what did Isaiah Simmons do? He struggled to start the year. He got way better playing the slot at the end of the year. Well, so like that's a tool in his toolbox. It's not hopefully what he's going to be asked to do every Sunday. He can do it though.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you were to probably look at the opponents and who
it was Atlanta, it was New England.
Yeah, right. But in Atlanta without a Kyle Pitts and early on it's
I don't want it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure.
I'll give
and
him,
then Jalen Thompson in the limited times, 4 slot, 2 free safety in 1 box. Now we didn't see Budda Baker. We don't know how Budda Baker is going to be deployed by this defense, but right now it looks like Isaiah Simmons is going to be the ball hawking safety to start out this season. And the quickest way to the bag in the NFL is putting up robust takeaway numbers. And if he can do that, I mean, to your point, it gives him value, and it lets the Cardinals obviously put him in that position to be successful for the first time in his career, gets them to the negotiating table, but it makes him valuable on the market. And I think that he'll appreciate that and appreciate the Cardinals doing that for him.
Why did the guys like D'Angelo Hall and Antonio Cromartie, even when they were in their latter stages of their career, continue to get big time contracts? They took the ball away. That's what defensive coordinators care about. Like if Isaiah Simmons, to your point, what if he had like 10 total takeaways this year? Interceptions, forced fumbles combined, or fumble recoveries. Like he's going to get paid by somebody.
Yeah, that's a massive season.
I mean, but all actuality, I think, again, 17 games and a team that is potentially the defense could be on the field a lot. I'm not putting it past him. How many you have last year? He at least got halfway to that. Tyler Simmons, favored in 0 games. Johnny, love it. Give me the points. Absolutely. Take the plus money every single Sunday when you can, because it's the best way. We'll talk about it with our friends at BetMGM here in a little bit. I also like this earlier Fist Bowl flash. Johnny's ears are burning with all the positive Simmons talk. Listen, I'm a humble enough guy, Brack. I can put away my, just transgressions as it relates to. I don't love Isaiah Simmons stiffing our show twice. That will always bother me because this is my baby, but the Cardinals are my other baby. And if he helps the Cardinals win on Sunday, of course I'll love him. There are assholes on teams all the time that produce well. And while Isaiah Simmons seems like a good guy, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to come on our show.
Jesus. Man, talk about putting your foot in your mouth. No, I mean, look.
No, I mean, that's how I feel. Like Isaiah Simmons stiffed us twice.
There was conversations to be had like this offseason that were just completely based on the business side of football and where good teams and how they operate. And picking up the 5th-year option on a player like Simmons would just be malpractice. It would have been. I mean, you couldn't definitively say, hey, this is a difference maker on the defense right now as it stands right now. You couldn't point to where his strength was on the football field. But if they can find it, that's great. But at the point where they had to make a decision before, what was the 1st or 2nd of May, as far as the 5th-year option, it just wasn't happening. So like we were having these conversations, and my co-host, he gets carried away all the time, and
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, he was making the case in the right case. He didn't pick it up. Monty Austinfort saw it that way, and we trust Boston for it at this point. I think everybody should. He hasn't given you any reason not to. That was the right decision. But then as we sit here staring down potentially his final season as an Arizona Cardinal, there's no reason not to root for him. There's no reason not to be in his corner and see him watch him have success on the football field. You should to watch a freak athlete like Isaiah Simmons ball out. That would bring a lot of joy to a lot of Cardinals fans' TVs. And out there at State Farm Stadium in the BetMGM Sportsbook.
Jose, shaking my head. Now he's an a-hole. Don't expect a callback. I don't expect a callback. He has nothing to prove to you, Johnny. I want Isaiah Simmons to succeed. I don't think he's an a-hole. Do I think that he should have come on our show? Yeah. A couple times he told us he was going to come on. He didn't come on. But again, doesn't matter, because if he plays well for the Cardinals this fall, it will lead to them having success. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want the Cardinals to do well. And if he buys into Jonathan Gannon and Gannon gets the most out of him, I mean, you could be watching a partnership for the short term and the long term. But Bo, if I ever had a kid, you get to name them. Free matter for the blind. Well, what about me? I don't get a say in it. Maybe the middle name.
What are you going with? Is it Isaiah? Is it Simmons?
No.
What do you like?
It was Trey McBride, free matter for the blind, but we'll have to change. We'll have to change it up now. Fishbowl Flash. Simmons burned his bridge to the show, but Buddha or Jalen would show up. Yeah, we welcome all Cardinals if they want to come on. Isaiah Simmons has an open invitation to come on this show at any point. Do I think he's going to? Never, but we'll cheer him on from BetMGM. Isaiah Simmons and Colt McCoy equals the Johnny Dream team. We've joked off air, no air raid offense, that what if Colt McCoy abruptly retired? This show would reach out to him first to try to get him on as a guest host. We would absolutely reach out to Colt McCoy, and hopefully he wouldn't pull any of my prior footage. Just saying.
Oh man, yeah, I'm still trying to think of what I'm gonna name the child here going forward when that happens. But yeah, I mean, let's listen to Jonathan Gannon, JG.
You guys, buddies, now you shorten his first name.
Talk about Isaiah Simmons and his progress.
Comfortable. Yeah, real comfortable. I think we gave him some things to work on this week. It showed up yesterday to make more plays. But I think as far as from a standpoint of being in the right spot, making the right calls, finishing with the correct leverage, hitting his landmarks where his eyes are, his body positioning, his reaction time, he's doing a good job with it.
Putting him in position to make more plays. And, from what it sounded like as far as on the preseason opener on Friday against the Broncos, I mean, there just weren't a lot of plays for him to make just because they were so disruptive up front. And Russell Wilson was having a tough time just getting the ball to playmakers. Isaiah Simmons was in the right spot as far as when he looked back at the tape. So he's just he's getting it right now. And then they want him to they're putting more on his plate, which is good for the Cardinals, for him to take the next step as far as this position change goes.
So his PFF grade last year was 67, but there's an emphasis, if you remember, from a coverage standpoint. Like, that's supposed to be his bread and butter. Like, a lot of people thought it would be rushing the passer. I don't particularly see that as a strength for him. I think Buddha is probably your best rushing safety. And I also think, for this team, they're going to have to get to some third downs here. And if that front seven from last Friday is any indication, they can do that. But what's going to be difficult during the season, Bo, Isaiah Simmons is going to be asked to fill and clean up a lot of the mess that maybe the front seven can't take care of. I hope this team is able to play with some leads this year, and they're able to get into some second and long, third and longs that allow Isaiah Simmons to eat in the back end. Because I do have concerns. If you remember back to his time as a linebacker, I mean, he had trouble filling. He had trouble filling in the hole. He had trouble meeting players at the line of scrimmage. He had trouble tackling in open space, right? Mm-hmm. It was very difficult to watch at times. I think his best course of action is to stand and be the last line of defense for the Cardinals and help out his fellow defensive backs. We're going to talk about the number 2 cornerback situation here in a little bit, but guys like Marco Wilson and Keitrell Clark, who's a rookie that's going to play a prominent role, we assume, and Antonio Hamilton, these guys will all I'm sure, take pride and solace in knowing Isaiah Simmons is back there to have their back from a safety standpoint, because he should never be burnt by anybody. Theoretically, he's one of the fastest players on the field. I think somebody asked him recently, is he the fastest player on the field? And if he's not, he's top 3 to 5 every single football Sunday. So, I mean, the Cardinals should not get beat on the big play in the passing game with Isaiah Simmons at free safety. Could they get beat underneath? Sure. But for me, it's like, okay, can he get tip balls? Can he make interceptions one-handed like we saw against New Orleans last year? Be at the right place at the right time. And man, we have not seen him, with all seriousness as it relates to Isaiah Simmons, play with immense confidence in the NFL. Go turn on his junior tape at Clemson when they were in the national championship. That was a guy who felt confident in his role, and he won the Buckus Award for Dabo Swinney. It's like, can you just get him at a point where he can play free and easy as a free safety? We're like a quarter of the season of the way in, and it's like, yeah, this guy looks like he should be playing this next position for 10 plus years.
Yeah,
that's why I'm hoping
the previous 3, right?
Yeah,
he should have been. I mean, And he was pretty candid in his press conference, which was great. Talking about the previous regime, and he wasn't seeking that out. It wasn't something that he was trying to make a point to say they fucked me here. It was malpractice. But he mentioned, like, he said they asked him what position he wants to play as far as Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis, and he was honest. And he said, I want to play this, and I want to focus on that, and I want to get as good as I can at that. And then just kind of putting it up and pitting it against where he was with Vance Joseph and Cliff Kingsbury, it was like, and he stopped himself, and he's like, he could have probably just gone scorched earth on him. But he said, basically, I was being asked to play positions that they felt they wanted me to play, but they knew wasn't in my best interest. And I was doing that for the best interest of the team. And now the coaches, Gannon and Rallis, are letting him play his position that's going to benefit him, that's only going to benefit the Cardinals. And it's just like, it's funny how that works. It's like you put a position in a player for success, and it's going to turn out to parlay into success for the team. It's so crazy. It's so simple, and they make it look so simple. And that's the genius behind, I think, what they did in Philly with Nick Sirianni, including Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, is it's like, it's the simple things, but they master the simple things, and they're able to replicate it and do it over and over and turn it into routine, and it just becomes ingrained in the culture. And it's such a refreshing thing to see, instead of just this constant struggle, this against the grain. We're going to get these versatile players, and we're going to make them drink out of a fire hose as far as them learning all these roles, and then we're going to put them in these weird roles that aren't conducive to success. It's just like, get your best football players, put them in the best position for success, and guess what? You'll probably have a really good chance at winning some football games.
So he had 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions last year in limited playing time, especially early in the season. Put a ball in this conversation, Bo Brock. What is a successful season statistically? I don't care about tackles.
Yeah.
I don't think tackles are a measure, especially for a safety. But sacks, forced fumbles, interceptions, of those 3 specific statistics, tell me the totals.
Yeah, I think the biggest key, as far as with Isaiah Simmons and him playing that CJ Gardner-Johnson role, is to take the football away. And let's say he had 6 picks, and if you look at the next level kind of analytics to it, I don't think he was that impressive. And I think that Isaiah Simmons is probably a more impressive athlete, football player to start with.
Not even close.
Right.
CJ Gardner-Johnson's like 5'10".
Right. And to see a 6'4" athletic freak out there, and if he's in the right spots, I mean, I think that you got to set the bar at 5 picks, and maybe, like, I don't think he's going to have a big sack number, so I think 2 would be good if he's coming on safety blitzes, right? And 2 to 3 forced fumbles. So then you're looking at what you said, close to 8 turnovers.
Yeah.
I think that's a really solid season, and probably upwards of 80 to 90 tackles.
I want to get everybody's take on Isaiah Simmons' statistics this year. Jalen Blair saying 4 INTs, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. That's a monster year. Johnny's turned into Isaiah Simmons' biggest supporter, is what I'm here for. I'm here for Isaiah Simmons buying in with JG, and then the Cardinals, very similar to what they're doing with Kyler Murray, empowering their players. And again, I root for Isaiah Simmons on the field. I want to see him do well, because it means good things for this franchise. My official,
and I didn't know this, is CJ Gardner-Johnson only played in 12 games last year. He led the NFL with 6 picks, or he was either tied for either. He had 12 games. So
I think
maybe that number has to be higher. I mean,
I think Simmons gets to 4 picks. I agree with Jalen. I don't know about 4 sacks, but I think 4 picks and like 4 forced fumbles, because he's going to be looking for the football. That's going to be his job. I think there's going to be times this year where he's just going to go for the big play, regardless of if it's a big gain or not. And I think you can kind of pick your spots. Again, Antonio Cromartie used to always do that. Who's the defensive back? Diggs in with the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do they say in PFF and everything? Diggs has like the worst burnt rate in the NFL. He gives up the most yards in coverage. You know who cares about that? Nobody, because the Dallas Cowboys paid him a premium because he takes the football away. I think we can get some of that with Isaiah Simmons. Free matter for the blind, saying 6 picks, 3 forced fumbles, and a shit ton of tackles. Dylan Richards, 3 picks, 3 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. I think that's a good problem to have if you're talking about, oh no, can we afford Isaiah Simmons now?
Yeah.
I think you just deal with that in the offseason. It becomes a talking point for January and February. But if you're getting good production, I think it's going to lead to wins this fall. So you have to like what you're seeing. You got to like what you're seeing from our friends at BetMGM. Bo, love the comment earlier. Please throw a like in this video if you're coming out this weekend to BetMGM, the Great Lawn at State Farm Stadium. It's the home of PHNX Cardinals every single football Sunday. Myself, Brack, the entire PHNX Cardinals family, which is growing, by the way. We're going to be out there for our inaugural show. It's the preseason matchup. Arizona Cardinals hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Bo and I will be doing a pre-show and a post-game show. Hopefully the Cardinals securing yet another dub. Now, they're a much bigger underdog this weekend than they were last weekend against Denver. But again, have you seen Kansas City's receiving core? I think the Cardinals' chances to at least hang around in this game. I like your chances to win big with our friends at BetMGM. Sign up with BetMGM. Use that bonus code PHNX. It's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our folks here in Arizona, place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bet if it loses. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to our guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
I've had the perfect little Saturday plan for each and one of all 154 of you. Go out to the BetMGM Sportsbook, join us for the first pregame out there for a Cardinals game, and then also just hang out, drink, gamble, and have some great food, and then go on the Game Time app. Zero stress. Buy yourself some tickets to get into the stadium at State Farm Stadium. I'm seeing tickets as low as $5 right now. You can get into the stadium. You can watch Patrick Mahomes potentially play football with the Game Time app. That's right. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. $20 off your first purchase. I mean, you can get 4 tickets for $20 at $5 a piece. It's unbelievable. Game Time, obviously the number one app that you're going to want to use to get yourself to any event in the Valley or wherever you may be. Game Time, $20 off with the code PHNX. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, zero stress. Game Time, get in the game.
Classy Nasty wants to know who Saul Bookman is yelling at. Is that Saul that's yelling right now?
It's the whole PHNX crew. I don't know what's going on back there.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people that yell for everybody to quiet down when they're on their show, and then they're screaming back there.
It's typical behavior. I like this from Nick in the chat. From one Nick to another, Nick Rallis will be a head coaching candidate in 3 years. We better enjoy him. I mean, that would be a great situation for the Cardinals, especially like on the defensive side, because Gannon obviously has a defensive background. I think Drew Petzing, if he has success, that will be harder to replace eventually. But I mean, Nick Rallis, youngest coordinator in the NFL, I heard is putting in huge hours. I know that doesn't always translate to wins, but like 16-hour days, he's always in the office. He's a football junkie. The relatability with this staff, and specifically Nick Rallis with the players on this team, I mean, it's empowerment. There's a competition between Petzing and Rallis of who's going to win. We talked about that after the scrimmage, after Drew Petzing did well, and then the following week, Nick Rallis' defense had a big week en route to Denver. So, yeah. I mean, it's guys who just love football and most importantly love to teach and coach football, and you can't put a price on that.
I think unfortunately the secret is out about Nick Rallis. I mean, just to be hired at 29 as a defensive coordinator, it's not somebody you're going to be able to kind of keep under the radar very long, especially if there's success from this defense. You look at it as far as the roster and who will deploy at the defensive line, at the linebacker spot, relative to the NFL, guys that aren't big names. And if they have any success this year, I think that he's going to get some looks just because of, the rise of a Sean McVay. And McVay, he was like a tight ends coach for a little bit, and then he was the offensive coordinator in Washington for a very short-lived amount of time. It could have, he's either max 2 seasons, it could have just been 1. He was there as the OC for Washington before getting his opportunity at 32 years old. And Nick Rawls isn't far from that. But 3 years, I think that's a good ballpark. I'm a little concerned that it might be shorter than that, but a lot has to happen. The cornerback room has to step up. That's for damn sure. And we know Marco Wilson. It's funny. Marco Wilson going into his third season, and kind of up and down, uneven at some point, but really finished strong for the Cardinals last year, is their biggest proven commodity at the cornerback spot. He's CB1. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. But Rawls has maintained that the competition for CB2 and beyond, it's raging right now. That fire is raging, and we're trying to figure out who that is. And I think it's a trio of guys, Johnny, who are in competition for this, as Garrett Williams remains on the non-football injury list because he tore his ACL at Syracuse last October. He continues to come back from it. So it's the vet journeyman Antonio Hamilton, who was popping in training camp in preseason last year. He won the job outright over Wilson at the time. Then he had the freak incident in his kitchen, took him off the playing field. Been in the league for 7 seasons. He's 30 years old. Christian Matthew, 1 year of experience. He was the rookie last year out of Valdosta State. And you think, oh, he's still young. He's going to be 27 in October. Yeah. And then you got the new guy coming out of this year's draft, out of Jonathan Gannon's Alma, and he's making plays in his first preseason game. Keitrell Clark, 22 years old, the rookie, seeing a lot of reps with the first team. Johnny, if you had to start one of these guys tomorrow, who are you putting in the lineup?
I think Antonio Hamilton gets to start week 1. Now, that doesn't reflect what has happened over the last couple of weeks, but Christian Matthew, to me, started training camp as CB2, and I think of those 3 players is probably the one that, in my opinion, has been pushed down the depth chart. Just has not looked as good as he did to open up camp. Now, Keitrell Clark, I'm ready to anoint him as is everybody else. But, I mean, asking a 6th-round pick to start week 1, that's a little bit troublesome. So I could see maybe Antonio Hamilton, Keitrell Clark, like splitting reps. I'm surprised Garrett Williams is not back yet based on kind of what we've been reading between the tea leaves. He very similar like Zach Ertz. He looks good.
Yeah.
They're taking their time. They're happy with the depth that they have. And, Antonio Hamilton, to me, I thought outside of the pass interference last Friday, played really good football, was our player of the game before David Blau, the Magic Man, stole it away, but had the interception and has the experience, right? And so while I'm never of the mindset, let's just start old guys because of experience, I have seen enough from Antonio Hamilton these last 2 weeks that, like, okay, can we continue to ease Keitrell Clark in here? Because I don't want to overwhelm him even against the Sam Howell or Daniel Jones. That's a very tall task. But again, similar to Isaiah Simmons, I trust Jonathan Gannon's ability to develop defensive backs, whereas like whomever he goes with, I have immense support behind that. But of those 3, it's Antonio Hamilton for me, which good for him. Like a month ago, we were talking about, is he in trouble? Could he get cut from this team? They brought him back on a modest contract. They didn't have any affiliation to him other than the tape that they saw last year, similar to Greg Dortch. So that tells you, like, they like the makeup of this guy. And goodness, for an NFL team that is going to probably play a lot of defensive backs, you're going to have everybody on the roster. Let's just see who sticks. It could be just we're riding the hot ham for a couple weeks. It's going to be Antonio Hamilton. Then Keitrell Clark has a great week of practice. He's ready. It could be based on matchups. But Antonio Hamilton, to me right now, unfortunately for him, because I like him and he's a super fun guy in the locker room, feels like the one that's the odd man out.
Yeah, it's tough, but to your point, I mean, I think that you're going to see a lot of defensive looks outside of their base where they're going to load it up with defensive backs. I mean, in nickel, you're going to have 5. Now, 3 of those are going to be safeties, right? You're going to have Jalen Thompson, you're going to have Budda Baker and Isaiah Simmons,
right?
And then you've got 2 corners. So you got to figure out, like, who's the guy, right? Opposite Marco Wilson, and who's going to be able to maybe make the play for you. We saw Keitrell Clark, he's getting the opportunities, and then Hamilton's capitalizing on the very minuscule opportunities he's getting with the pick last week. Almost had a second one responding, and you love to see that. That's what the competition's all about. And then Matthew probably more like a little bit, his game's kind of geared up towards your better run stopping corner, but like that's not what you want in a CB2, right? That's maybe if you're going into a penny look where you've got one linebacker and you've got the traditional front, and then you got that another corner on the field, maybe you could throw him out there for that. But he's obviously got the size compared to the two other guys. But no, I agree with you. I think that if you're going to err on any side, err on the side of experience. And I think that Antonio Hamilton certainly has that and can help maybe give a little bit more seasoning opportunity for a guy like Keitrell Clark at 22 coming out of the ACC.
Free matter for the blind. Pretty damn impressed with Clark, got to say, as am I. Again, I mean, what he displayed Friday, and again, there's a big difference between what's left of Russell Wilson and then Patrick Mahomes this Saturday. It's a great test for him. And then the defensive backs are going to be tested, but his ball skills and his ability to play the position, we talked about it yesterday. He was one of my trending ups. I think he was on your list as well, Bo.
Yeah.
It's just like this franchise has gotten back to basics so much so it's like, let's just get good football players from the collegiate level and let's try to emulate what they do well. Let's not focus on what they can't do. And certainly Keitrell Clark, there's a comfort level there. I mean, he's an afterthought for a lot of us, including myself. Like, is he even going to make the team? Because we're so conditioned with 6th and 7th rounders, like practice squad, right? Can they get through the preseason, even for a roster like the Cardinals? And it's like, oh yeah, this 6th round pick looks like he's going to make his mark. So I do think, if you're looking for a soft landing spot, I know Washington's receivers are borderline elite. This is a nice group, but Sam Howell, Daniel Jones early on, like let's see him out there. It gets a little dicier when you're talking about Dallas and some of the other teams down the line.
He went up against Russ and he came out, looking better than the 35-year-old quarterback. And I know that Russ was a disaster last year, but I mean, he didn't get back on track. And, if you're expecting better play than Sam Howell, I think that's a stretch still, even though, Russell Wilson is kind of his career is he's got to have a resurgence and get back on track. But like, I'm not going to like Sam Howell he hasn't proven anything, and Russell Wilson is proven to make plays. Right. So, it's a good competition. I mean, I think I'm more encouraged now after seeing it kind of play out than you are. And that's why, you don't kind of judge the season just based on paper and what's on paper as far as the roster. And I really can't wait for Garrett Williams to get back. I mean, I think
he's the heir apparent regardless.
If you're getting gassed up by Keitrell Clark, just wait till you see the skill set from coming out of Syracuse. I mean, a true ball hawk that was picking up some big boys for the Orange.
And this is how you can afford to pay Isaiah Simmons and Jalen and Buddha, is if you've got defensive backs like Marco and Keitrell Clark and Garrett Williams not making any money. If these guys hit and they're on their rookie deals, like you can go and you can splurge at safety if you can make it work financially. But like everybody, this is going to be a pinnacle year for this defense because, there's an elite defensive back prospect is he from Alabama?
Kool-Aid?
Yeah. And so, and there's
Kool-Aid McKistry.
Kool-Aid McKistry is a guy I'm sure that's going to be mocked to the Cardinals a lot this fall. And it's like, let's see if Jonathan Gannon.
Oh yeah,
we're not going to be doing that during draft.
You don't want that?
No,
you don't want him to bust to the wall and with a pick six, and you go, oh yeah.
For that reason alone, I hope he never plays for this franchise. So I don't have to hear you say that. But I think they've invested. I mean, Marco Wilson is what I think is a high-end number 2 corner. And I think he's going to prove that this year. Is he CB1 like on the playing field? I don't know about that, but like Garrett Williams has the skill set to be right there. And traditionally with Jonathan Gannon, I know he traded for Darius Slay, but it's like usually his defensive backs are afterthoughts, mid-round picks, and you spend those premium picks defensively on the front 7. And the Cardinals need help at defensive tackle. So I like the idea of kind of having an island of misfit toys at cornerback because I think they'll get the most out of it.
I think Jonathan Gannon is always up for the challenge for that.
Yeah.
Like, I know he had some proven commodities in Darius Slay and James Bradbury, but he you look at Avonte Maddox, a guy that kind of developed there, and on the back end, like a Marcus Epps who got signed by the Raiders this offseason. And it'd be interesting to kind of follow those guys' career paths post Jonathan Gannon when they're not, working on him underneath him on a day-to-day. So Agent 4 in the chat saying, hi guys, first comment, PHNX Live. Welcome to the show, Agent 4. No offsides plays called on time. No boneheaded penalties. Team looked focused, disciplined. Big change from the last 2 years, 4 years for that matter. We mentioned that yesterday on the show. Yep. Offensive coordinator Drew Petzing was asked about the one pre-snap penalty, which actually was on a procedure, right? Wasn't it a procedure where the tight end was on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And it was where Cliff Kingsbury's teams were in the top 5 most penalized teams every year under K2. And it was, and they were number 1 twice. So yes, it's a very refreshing, just that this team, especially on the offensive side of the football, you weren't seeing a whole lot of laundry there. So Michael's saying, hey, I'll welcome to the show, Michael. And then Fishbowl Flash is just saying Kool-Aid because it's fun. It's awesome. It's a great name.
I'm having fun with Agent 4. Thanks for joining the show, my guy. Hit a like and subscribe. We do this every day. We want to see you back here in the chat, as with all of you. Be interesting to see who they start at CB2 come this Saturday. It's going to be interesting, by the way, if you haven't picked up, pregame meal yet. I'm thinking maybe I stop off Bo Brack at Burrito Express en route to Glendale. I think that's a pretty good use of time. There's multiple locations in the Valley, but emphasis on the Tempe location. It is choice. I was thinking about it. It was a year ago today. We left the studio and came to the new one. And what did we do before we came to the new one? We all sat around.
Yeah.
We had Burrito Express.
It's like kids on a field trip. We were all sitting on the floor.
Yep.
We had our little lunch baggies, what they cooked up for us. And it was a delicious Burrito Express burrito. It wasn't, Lunchable. It wasn't, whatever your mom had packed for you. It was actually a legitimate breakfast burrito, bean and cheese, whatever tickles your fancy.
It was them taking care of us like they're going to take care of all of you. On August 19th, their Tempe location will host a meet and greet from 10:30 to 12. We've got our guy Jalen. Elijah Badger is going to be there. Tons of quality stuff going on. Free stickers to the first 25 peeps that come through. Want this to be a big event because we believe in Burrito Express, the product. We don't partner with people that we don't believe in, with the products we don't use ourselves. Again, I'm so fortunate now. I'm in the East Valley. Burrito Express is 10 minutes from my house. It's the only place I get my burritos. Go follow them. Burrito Express on Twitter at Burrito EXP. You will not be sorry. It's the best breakfast burrito I've ever had.
Yeah, I wish it was in the central Phoenix area, kind of close to me. But when I go out to Cards, their facility there in Tempe, I'm always stopping by Burrito Express. I know the guys over at PHNX Sun Devils, they do the same. Can't wait to always have that burrito from those guys as well. Shady Rays, get in on the best deal this season, 50% off polarized sunglasses using that promo code PHNX. It's the official shades of PHNX Sports. Yeah, premium polarized shades, world-class product. Just get you don't save your money. Don't go buy those expensive sunglasses any longer. They're just going to collect dust in your car or wherever you keep your shades. Shady Rays offers insane protection on all eyewear, and they look great. No questions asked, and you can get your money, or you can actually, if they break, they've got a great deal where you can send them back long after your purchase. Take advantage of this deal. Get 50% off 2 or more pairs of premium polarized sunglasses at shadyrays.com using that code PHNX. Check out the shades for yourself that 250,000 people are giving 5 stars. It's unreal. Shady Rays. It's undeniable how great these sunglasses are.
It's great. This is also great. $10 super chat from our guy or gal. Free matter for the blind. Bo, you were there. JG was asked today about K1 coming off the pup. Do you really think he has no idea? Love you, PHNX Sports. We love you, Free Matter for the Blind. Every day he's here or she's here hanging out with all of us. I'll go on the record, Bo. You can share your opinion. I think he's got an idea. I don't think he has a specific date in mind that they have to hit. And I think there's some optimism, hopefully, that he can come off before the regular season so they give themselves immense flexibility whenever he does return. I don't think Gannon's lying to everybody saying, I don't know, it could be tomorrow, it could be in October. We just don't know. I think they have a ballpark idea. They're just not sharing that because they don't want to set the fan base up for disappointment or frustration if it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, they continue to stress it's not linear, right? It's not like a step-by-step process where you just get and you're good to go and say, hey, it's going to be September blank, right? It's where they're checking in on a daily basis. I mean, we really got taken into the process with Zach Ertz and went into him getting activated, and how he said he had to kind of check in with the team trainers and doctors. And Zach Ertz was he traveled to see a doctor to get himself the green light to be cleared for physical activities and return to practice and get activated from PUP. And he was yesterday, and he wasn't practicing today because he has a cold, because all new parents like Zach and Johnny and myself have experienced. Your kids and will get you sick. They'll bring home an illness, and that's what Zach Ertz is dealing with. But as far as, you can only do as much as what the training staff and the doctors are going to okay. And you can try to ballpark it as much as you can, but I don't think that they're in the business of doing that. Exactly what you said, Johnny. They don't want to set up an expectation that can't be met and people be disappointed. And he was real short with his answer as far as it came from Josh Weinfuss, the question from ESPN.com. He asked about Kyler. Is there, a plan or a date for Kyler to come off PUP? And he just said, I don't know. Basically, it wasn't much, and there wasn't much insight to it. So, yeah, they're not going to be in the business of setting up a date for that at this point.
I mean, like, Gannon's not going to tee himself up for that, but I mean, the media relations team with Flight Plan teased it. The Kyler saying the goal is to come back week 1. I do think that's something that can't be ignored. I don't want to set him.
See, Jordan Brooks, the linebacker for the Seahawks, came back 7 months. He was cleared from PUP just yesterday. He got hurt in week 17 for the Seahawks. I remember that,
and he's back already.
He's back.
And nobody's making a big hoo-hoo about that. He was also drafted in the first round with Isaiah Simmons, too. Interesting.
Yeah. Tech linebacker.
Yeah, he's still at linebacker. He had a great game 2 years ago against the Cardinals in week 17, which unfortunately led to them not winning the NFC West.
He's a tackling machine. He's I think they said he's got like 360 tackles over the last 2 seasons. It's insane.
Isaiah's a safety. It's a safety. He wants to play safety. Let him play safety. Jordan Brooks is a linebacker. Let's talk about some fantasy outlooks, Bo Brock, for this team, and maybe what it says and doesn't say about the statistical add-ups for the regular season. We've got a tremendous graphic, and let's start. Where do you want to start? Because I think some of these are telling to where people believe the Cardinals are going to be at in 2023. But the bell cow, obviously, is James Conner, because who else do the Cardinals have in the backfield?
Right. Yeah. Let's take a look at James Conner, the first Cardinal you should maybe look at drafting if you're getting into fantasy football. And James Conner had 868 rushing yards. This is per ESPN Fantasy. These are their projections. 8 total touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns with 1 receiving, 43 catches for 294 yards. So you would have another over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and he would have another season where he's approaching, double-digit tutties. This seems low to me with what, I think that this organization is setting up for Conner to have a huge workload. Now, I think they had him just over 200 carries on this. I just think that it's probably going to be north of that if he can stay healthy. And I know that's the big knock on Conner, but I mean, if he gets as many opportunities as we think he's going to get, like, I think these numbers, I think he blows these out of the water.
Well, and
that's a good season.
I mean, yeah, I think they're projecting him not to stay healthy by these numbers. Because if he plays 17 games, he's going to sleepwalk to 1,000 yards. In 17 games, it's like 55 yards rushing a game. Yeah. Does anybody see, like, look what they did Friday night? They wanted desperately to run the football, just no one really was effective. Like, that's going to be their MO. They're going to be able to run, work off a play action, boot Kyler out when he comes back. But I think that's ESPN saying, like, you're going to get like 12 games out of James Conner, because I think he hits that easily, if not more so. If you play 17 games, you're looking at somebody that's going to be, I think, in contention for like a Pro Bowl berth, his best statistical year. Like, the touchdowns are irrelevant to me because that's predicated on the Cardinal offense doing well outside of James Conner. But from a yardage standpoint, like, maybe the receiving, right around 300 seems about right, because I don't know how much they're going to throw to their backs, but north and south where James Conner thrives, he's gonna hit 1,000 yards. He will sleepwalk his way 1,000 yards. And can Keontae Ingram clean up some of that mess? I don't know. Yeah. It remains to be seen.
He's going to have, especially with Colt McCoy under center, like he's going to be an integral part in this offense, and especially in the pass game. And we've seen Colt McCoy and him, connect for some big screen.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that stands out, the San Francisco one, he took it to the house. I think it was 40+ yards. I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm sure they have some sort of formula where they take, as far as what he averages, how many games he plays in, and they're just basing it off of that. But it's really strange. But he's got 26 total touchdowns in his 2 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, it is crazy. I know you can look at the team and say, hey, there's not a lot of options here, but the guy's been so productive. He's been money in the bank close to the goal line. They're going to get their opportunities. And like, just look at the 2-point conversion that they ran. They ran the ball. Like, they're going to run the ball when they're that close all the time. Why
How
would
much
you
will they go to that well though?
Right.
Like, will they be tempted like 2 weeks in? If he has like 60 touches in 2 weeks and they're just like, this isn't sustainable. And that's always been my argument.
Isn't he that Tercel though? Isn't he that 92 Tercel where you just rack up the miles at this point? I mean, you're paying him a premium. You're paying him a lot of money for a running back. He's what, 27? He's going to be 28 or whatever. I mean, don't you just rack up the mileage?
Like, you say that, but then it's like, then Colt McCoy can't throw every third day. Like, what are we doing here? One guy gets a plan and somebody else can't.
I don't think we're going to see Connor in the preseason. I just don't. I don't.
No.
Yeah.
I just mean like Colt McCoy. They're setting out with a management plan that's hopefully not going to span more than 4 games at most. Whereas like James Conner, like, he's going to be a piece of the offense ideally for 17 weeks until early January. Like, I don't. Where they're going right now offensively, you need a second back. You need a third back too. But like, this team, the perfect world is what James Conner had with Chase Edmonds 2 years ago when it was like 60-40. That's how he was able to stay fresh and have the kind of year he had.
He still got hurt.
Yeah. I just, who's that complimentary back? I don't think he's on the team yet. And maybe he's never on the team, but big week, low key this week against Kansas City to see who steps up in this backfield, because right now nobody is taking the baton. The receiver game is a little bit different. We've talked about Michael Wilson. I don't want to start there. I want to start with Hollywood Brown, the assumed wide receiver.
We got all our wide receivers together here.
Okay, in a special graphic.
We did, yeah. So this is the trio that they have as the top most productive wideouts for the Arizona Cardinals in 2023. Hollywood Brown, 75 catches for 971 yards, 4 touchdowns. Got Rondale Moore. So probably a down season for Hollywood, but then you look at Rondale Moore and you talk about health. Like, this would be a healthy season for Rondale Moore. I would sign up right now for this season from Rondale Moore. 70 catches for 737 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then I'm not that down on this season for Michael Wilson. I think that this is a productive season for a 3rd-round rookie. 43 catches for 511 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that he can eclipse that easily. But I'm not mad at these. The Hollywood one is a little concerning. The other 2, I would probably take.
I mean, the Hollywood one, let's start with that, is a coin flip. Does he get 1,000 yards or not? And I think that is solely predicated on this Kyler Murray comeback sooner rather than later.
Look at that chain, by the way, on this graphic. My God.
I mean, the new jerseys look fantastic on Hollywood Brown. He looks great in that new color scheme.
Primetime Jet is his social handle, but look, it's just this iced out jet that he's got on his chain.
Here's what I will say. It's a pretty big indictment on Hollywood Brown if he plays all season with or without Kyler and he can't get 1,000 yards. I think they'll scheme him up. I'm not concerned about that. This is a concern with Rondale Moore. No way this happens. No. I'm going to tell you right now, Greg Dortch and Zach Pascal will take a big segment of this. 737 yards for Rondale Moore when his career high is in the 4s. Like 430 last year. Like, I think Rondale Moore can be productive. I think his numbers are more in line, I think, with what Michael Wilson is projected to have. And I'm not saying Michael Wilson's going to have 737 yards. I'm saying there's going to be about 3 to 4 guys on this team that are all playing in the same sandbox of like between 400 and 600 yards. I think Hollywood's going to be the standout. And then where Michael will solidify himself, I think, is from a touchdown standpoint, because he's a bigger, more physical receiver, and that will lend itself well in the red zone. I mean, like, I think it's borderline irresponsible for ESPN to project Rondale Moore with a season in which they think the Cardinals are going to be terrible, plus Colt McCoy to have a career high 737 yards. Like, you're just guessing at that point. It's like every fantasy football, every podcast preview for this team that I've done this offseason, it's like Rondale Moore, wide receiver 2, talk to me about him. First of all, did anybody watch the game Friday night? 2 receiver sets did not include Rondale Moore. It was Zach Pascal and Michael Wilson. Hollywood will come back. They'll have to shift some things around. There are not going to be enough opportunities for Rondale Moore to have 700 yards in this offense that's already going to be run dominant. I mean, like, Rondale Moore in the red zone, that's not a winning recipe, in my opinion. It's big tight ends like Ertz and McBride and Wilson. And then if you want to have Hollywood, Rondale Moore, to me, you got to prove it. You got to earn it, right? I've never seen him do that. Circa 2018 in Purdue, that's not, that doesn't, it's a half decade later. We're just taking stuff. We're just grabbing and making stuff up at ESPN. Again, I want him to do well. I want Isaiah to do well. I want these players to have success. But let's turn our brains on here. No way he's doing that. You think Rondale Moore's catching 70 balls in this offense? No way he's doing that.
I think if that's if you're trying to, do an educated guess and you have this model and you run it through and you feel like, hey, we're going to give fantasy football players over at ESPN this idea that Rondale Moore is going to catch 70 balls for 700 yards.
You're
and
just not educated.
Past 2 seasons. Yeah. I mean, it's a little, that's
this team. It's people not paying attention to this team. And this Kyler Murray stat is the emphasis, the antithesis of it. This next one we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the Cardinals franchise signal caller.
That is the biggest
2,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 8 picks, 350 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. Once again, per ESPN fantasy. I mean, these numbers, I think Kyler Murray put up touchdown numbers like that in his first, 6 or 7 games for the 2021 season. Like he eclipsed, I think he was at 20 touchdowns by then, total touchdowns by then. So they're expecting him, even when he's healthy, to take a massive step back production wise. And then like the 13 touchdowns, the 8 picks, I don't even think he's ever had like a ratio that close as far as touchdowns to picks. Like he takes care of the ball relatively well.
If this is what happens with Kyler Murray returning, and what is this projected over? How many games would you say this is projected over? Half a season, maybe? I would say it's about half a season. This is projecting Kyler Murray to miss like 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
If you're putting up those numbers in about 8 or 9 games, and we're subjected to Colt McCoy for 8 or 9 games, that's Kyler Murray's last season with the Arizona Cardinals. They're taking Caleb Williams first overall.
Yeah.
If you've got Kyler Murray almost with an equal touchdown to interception ratio for half a season, this team's winning three games and they're getting the first overall pick.
It looks like it's close to about 9 to 10. It looks like it's about 9 to 10. If you just go off his,
so it's almost half.
If he's throwing 250 yards a game, it's going to be around, and that's about his average. You
were losing 90%. Like that's them thinking Kyler's not coming back, and when he does come back, he's not going to be right, and they're going to be losing. So if you're going off of that, ESPN, so which is fine because that's what ESPN and everybody else thinks is going to happen.
Watching tape on Caleb Williams.
Yeah. But if we get one more time, producer Emma, if we get these numbers from Kyler Murray in 2023, the Cardinals are drafting Caleb Williams first overall. I don't think I think we're sleepwalking to 3,000 passing yards easily, sleepwalking, and I would not be surprised if he had 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. The rushing yards to me are irrelevant. I want him to feel comfortable as a passer in this offense. These are just flush these down the toilet. These are not relevant. These are not relevant.
If you look at Jacoby Brissett's season from last year, and Kyler is a much better quarterback, especially throwing the football, than Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Brissett he started 11 games and he had 2,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks, and he rushed for, 369 yards. So, I mean, that's more production from Brissett than what they're projecting for Kyler.
Kyler Murray is basically an XFL quarterback to everybody in the national media at this point. We saw our guy Will Brenton at CBS Sports put him at tier 6. Like, does anybody pay attention to what's happening? Kyler Murray's poised to come back sooner rather than later in a quarterback-friendly offense with a run game. It's like, no, he's not going to be watchable. You won't even be able to consume him.
He's going to throw 2,300 yards, and 700 of those are going to Rondale Moore. And like, how is Rondale Moore going to have 700 receiving yards and Kyler Murray is only going to have 2,300? And I know he's going to have it's with whoever's playing in the meantime while Kyler Murray comes back. It doesn't make sense.
Frustrating, but this team is doubted, and I think they use that. We saw from our guy Kyle Odegaard at compare.bet. We were talking about these numbers before the show.
Mm-hmm.
The team has a 46% chance to get the first overall pick. So that's actually grown in the offseason. Remember, it was like 33%. It was like a third. And now like people are coming out saying they think the Cardinals have a coin flip chance to get the first overall pick. Can we let's play some of the season before we do that? Can we
Right.
not?
I mean, we watched the Arizona Cardinals 2s and 3s compete with the Denver Broncos 1s. And, there's still the group think like, hey, this team's not, they might go the defeated season. They might go, winless. I mean, that's it. People just can't get away with what they've been hearing or kind of more on
It's
the lack
groupthink,
thereof
right?
throughout the offseason. They just can't get, they can't be bold enough to say, hey, this is a team that can win football games if they're well coached and they execute and they get their quarterback back in a reasonable amount of time. And I mean these just like we've been kind of saying all kind of off season and more leading up as these projections come out, they're lazy. They're not well thought out.
It's like draft season when everybody
right.
mocks the same player to the same
Exactly.
team.
Exactly. It's that, and
paste.
it's just like they're not putting a lot of thought. They're not doing the research as much as they are. The teams that are sexier and are maybe predicted and projected to be more in contention than the Arizona Cardinals. They're just like, I'm around 31 or 32 here as far as the teams I've been doing and all these write-ups, and I got to put something down for the Cardinals.
Check a box. I want to see everybody's prediction for Kyler's stats in the chat. Anthony gave me his 3,400 yards passing, 300 yards rushing, 23 TDs, 4 rushing, 6 picks when healthy. I love it. And I think that means Kyler Murray's going to be your quarterback now and in the future. And you absolutely love to see it. This team, again, it's about efficiency. It's about open plays, open receivers, putting Kyler in a position to be successful. I mean, we saw the training camp. There's just going to be more easy throws for him to make this year than there ever was under Cliff Kingsbury. I'm going to tell you what's an easy decision for me, Bo Brock, loading up at the Spaghetti Shack. If you're in the Queen Creek or Tempe locations, they are phenomenal. It's the Spaghetti Shack. It's ASU alum owned and operated. I love the carbo load, right? Before I get my workouts in, right? I got 2 kids. I got to chase them around. Spaghetti, meatball, garlic bread, some of the favorites. Chef's kiss for the chefs at Spaghetti Shack. Their mission, guys, provide quality, affordable food as quickly as possible. They get you in, they get you out, so you can spend less time cooking and more time spending it with your loved ones, your friends and family, hopefully watching Cardinal football. The food is fantastic. They are community focused like all of our partners here locally based. Again, Tempe, Queen Creek locations. The Spaghetti Shack is celebrating their new, how about this, ASU location with a grand opening Saturday, August 19th. You can get spaghetti, a meatball, garlic bread, $3.99. What? I went to McDonald's the other day. You know how much a Happy Meal is at McDonald's? Like $6.50. And that food's not any good. This is fantastic. It's $3.99.
Dude.
Only
Don't
valid
burn any bridges with McD's.
Oh, get out of here. Only valid during the grand opening. Again, $3.99. First 200 people are going to get that. It's going to go fast, but so does the food at Spaghetti Shack. Just fantastic.
What's also going to go fast are opportunities to make your way in, VIP access to our diehard events, including our BetMGM Sportsbook Sunday tailgates out there in Glendale at State Farm Stadium. I highly recommend you become a diehard today and get yourself on that list. You don't want to miss out. I'm making up that there's a list, but look, you want to be a diehard. You want to have access to all the great things that we're going to be doing each and every football Sunday. PHNX Cardinals, what we're going to be doing out there on the Great Lawn with the BetMGM Sportsbook. It's going to be unreal. Get your access today. Get your access to the Discord. Get that free tee or hat. Johnny's just the PHNX billboard right now. He's got the hat on.
Nice of you to wear some merch for the show, Bo. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. No problem. You're welcome. I mean, I've only got it all over the place. PHNX branded everywhere. Can you tell what I'm on right now? Yeah, PHNX. Become a diehard today. PHNX Locker, and of course, go PHNX.com. Read the great work of our beat writer, beat reporter, Howard Balzer. He's churning out great work on a daily basis. You can get access to all that, including the great writings of Gerald Bourget, Craig Morgan for the Suns, Coyotes, Jesse Freeman for the Diamondbacks. Check it all out. Become a diehard today. Go PHNX.com and PHNXLocker.com.
More of these K1 prediction statistics. Illa Dre, 3,200 yards, 18 tutties, 4 picks, 417 rushing yards. Damn, that's a big rushing total. Love it. Sin XL, 35 plus 100-yard passing, 25 TDs, 300 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns rushing, and 7 picks. Great. Fantastic. Again, though, I think all these are reasonable. These are in line with his career statistics. AZ Heat, 85. He's back by week 2, 68% completion, 4,100 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 picks, 500 rushing yards, 5 TDs. I think that's an average year for Kyler Murray. Not average in terms of his play, but the amount of time he plays, like that's a medium year for Kyler Murray. Wouldn't hate that. How about George? 4,000 yards passing, 25 passing TDs, 7 rushing. Cardinals 13-4. I mean, that's fantastic. I would sign up for that every single day.
13-win season. Yeah, I mean those are some robust statistics. The completion percentage, 68%, that's kind of around his career, right? He's right around 66, 67.
Oh, he might be 70 in this offense.
I think this offense. That's what I was going to say. I think that's going up. That's immediately going up, and you're going to see because he is a very accurate quarterback. He's going to get some wide receivers that are going to be, getting separation, and he's going to have a lot of space to get them the football. Unlike, Cliff Kingsbury, it's like, hey, we got one-on-one with AJ Green, put it over the top or thread the needle. That's the only way you're going to make a play. It's like, no, you're going to have space to do this. You're going to have a large window to throw it in. So I think you're going to see some completion percentage that's going to go up. And with that, the passing stats will follow as well. Fishbowl Flash K1 comeback player of the year. I mean, it's a tough year. You got John Mechie. He's returning. He beat cancer. And then you've got DeMar Hamlin, who basically died on the field. It's a tough
He
group.
can be our comeback player of the year. We can do an award on this show, but he's not winning the NFL comeback player of the year.
Yeah, exactly. If he comes back and he's strong again, I mean, that's all that matters. Anthony Garza, Sean Chandler making the roster. Safety they just signed the other day. The thing about Sean Chandler is interesting is he's suspended for the first two games of the season. He got popped for a PED violation. He can participate in the preseason. He can participate in practice, but once the season starts, he's out for the first 2 games of the season. We'll see if that plays a role as far as his ability to make the team. Also, we won't get this up in the screen. It was a while in the chat. It was Michael. He said he was going to the Cleveland game. He wants to know, should he get the white Paris Johnson 70 jersey or the white Zaven Collins jersey? What are you going with there, Johnny?
Paris Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, he's under contract potentially for the next 5 years.
I think he's going to be really good. I mean, do you want a guy who's going to be an all-pro? I think so. And that's not disrespect to Zaven. My take on Zaven is what I saw Friday night. Can he emulate that this season? He's going to be a good player and hopefully gets extended. But, I mean, 71 is not the sexiest number to rock, but I'm sure you can pull off better than I can. 70, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jose in the chat. Johnny Bo, your thoughts on Jonathan Gannon calling out the press on late to media and phone calls during the meetings costing $15K. Gannon setting standards even for the media. Glad to see it. Jose, are you being tongue in cheek, my friend? Because
that was real. That actually
was that a real thing? Okay,
yeah,
I know the phone went off during the media session.
Yeah, so the AZ Central Arizona Republic Cardinals media contingent had a bad day today. It was and it kind of gave me. It triggered me for sure because one of the app that went off is PBS Kids app. And if you have a child like I do, who's 2 years old, who's obsessed with the PBS Kids app, which has like Curious George and Daniel the Tiger and all those shows that will make you almost retch because you've heard it so many times.
Talk shit about Daniel Tiger in the squad.
He's a thief. He's stealing. He's Mr. Rogers' game.
Who's his friend Prince? Who?
I have no clue, man.
Oh, come on, man. Educate yourself, Danny Tiger. Go ahead.
But anyway, so Jose Romero, who covers the team very well for AZ Central, it just went off in his pocket. And JG Joke said, that's a $15,000 fine. That's a max fine for you, Jose. And then sneaking in late to the press conference was his colleague, Bobby McManaman, came in and asked the question. And JG, after answering it very well, he said, "Oh, Bob, don't think that you're getting out of this one. That's a $5K fine." So the Arizona Republic had a tough day for their main writers for the Arizona Cardinals.
They're good sports, but yeah, calm when you see them. That's great. Gannon, his attention to detail is elite. Please don't be Bo's phone when I according to free.
I got it on silent. I'm aware that it's just one little click. on the side of your phone. And some people just don't realize that. They like everybody to hear their ringtone, their text tones, and all of that. Most people don't enjoy it. And when you're in a press conference, just turn it off. But Jose, he has a 5-year-old. He was extremely apologetic, and
we've all been there.
Hopefully, he can laugh at it.
Nothing will ever beat what happened last year. I came into the press room and there was a big stain in front of me, and I'm like, "What happened here?" She's gonna hate that I tell this story, but it's too good not to share it. Could you imagine if this happened now? Yeah. Social media director for PHNX, Michaela, who does a fabulous job, was at a Cardinal event or game during a post-game presser and spilled her coffee all over the floor.
It was like day one. Yeah, Emma remembers. It was like a Diet Coke. She had filled it to the top, and basically it was like a Polar Pop size. I don't even know where she got the cup from at the facility, and just spilled it all over the floor. And then every time this lasted until like late into the season, I would take pictures of the stain and just text it to her just so she could see what she had done. They replaced the carpet in there, and I guarantee it was because of the big ass stain there. If you go, you'll notice it's brand new carpet in there.
Do they change it every year, or is there just like, man?
No, I think just when social media mavens do that, they you have to replace it.
You got it.
Or you go 4 and 13. You got to change everything.
You got to stay caffeinated, especially with the Polar Pop. You got to check out the merchandise locker, as Bo mentioned. The Greg Dortch shirt right now, it's the hottest selling item at the merchandise locker. Get it now before it sells out. Good Lord, is this a great looking t-shirt? I can't wait to rep this on game day. We got our guy, Greg Dortch, who I think is poised for a monster season. It's part of the reason, Bo, I poo-poo on all those Rondell faux statistics. They're going to be gobbled up by 83. 83, he doesn't fall down. He gets into the end zone. He falls into the end zone when he's scoring tutties. He's scoring touchdowns for us. He's going to be joining us mañana on a Thursday to preview Arizona Cardinals hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. In the meantime, like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. Fun little show today, Bo Brack. Had a good time with you.
Hey, I had a good time with you. Thanks, bud. I had a good time with everybody in the chat. Chat was on fire as usual. Yeah, but we're back tomorrow with our playmaker. Greg Dortch, 83, joins us. And I don't know, we'll figure out, can we reveal tomorrow, maybe Friday, who is going to join this podcast on game days? Can't wait to do that. We'll get the okay from the GM Saul Bookman. If not, maybe we'll leak it to some of our sources. But in the meantime, between now and then, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you on a Thursday edition of PHNX Cardinals.